Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome again, everyone. Hare Krishna, Bhagavad Gita 2023, chapter 2, text 60. There's 72 verses in the second chapter, so we're coming to the end of the chapter. And as usual, I like to read the commentaries which may be there from Burijan, his book, Surrender Unto Me. He often gives commentaries from different acharyas, sometimes can be interesting. And he also gives a nice synopsis and a nice, he helps us to understand the flow of the Gita, specifically the questions and the answers and how the verses connect in that way. So it's very interesting. So let's offer some prayers first to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavhari Pashtatara Satanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare. Actually, I think let's chant the whole Mangala Charan from Bhagavad Gita, being so as we're starting again after 2 months. Let's try and invoke the blessings for this reading and study. Okay, so you can chant along as best as you can together. Om Ganatamadandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Putale Swayam Rupakatamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shakutatam Sahagana Raganatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishavikamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turuyubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vihevacha Paritnam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Okay, let me just so I can see some hands up here. Got to press the button here. Okay. Okay, anyone like to begin reading? I saw one hand up there, but I can't see the hands now. Okay, let me go. Participants, press this button. Okay, Madhu Mangopuru, that was it. So what we was doing for Bhagavad Gita, we was reading the verse as well, or reading the verse as best as we can, because it's quite, the verses in Bhagavad Gita are generally a little bit easier to chant and pronounce than maybe what's found in Srimad Bhagavatam. So anyway, let's do our best. So Madhu Mangopuru, you can lead the charge. Chapter 2, text 60.
Yattato hi api kaunteya purushasya vapaschitha indriyani paramathini haranti prasabhaham manaha. Translation: the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcefully carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Purport: there are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavor, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind. Even Vishvamitra, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Maneka manaka into sex enjoyment. Although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with severe type of penance and yoga practice. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of the world. Therefore, it is difficult to control the mind and sense without being full Krishna consciousness. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot chase such material and engagement. A practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee who say, Ya davati mamma chetha Krishna padaravinde nava nava rasadamani udyatam rantum masit tat avadi bata nari sangame smarayamane bhavati mukha vikhara shrutu nishivanam cha. Since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor, however I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it, and I spit at the thought. Krishna consciousness is such a transcendentally nice thing that that automatically material enjoyment become distasteful. It is as if a hungry man has satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious eatable. Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durva Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. Savai Manaha Krishna Padara Vindaya Yor Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Any comments or questions on this?
Which verse are we doing, please? I've been looking.
260.
260. Thank you.
260. Yeah. So let me just read here, a little commentary here from Sundam to me. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to not give up work. So basically tell him not to become a Gani. Now, Gani in this sense of the term means someone who goes away somewhere for deep contemplation and meditation. In other words, they give up work. They become like a Gani, speculative philosophers. Maybe a meditative yogi Gani, maybe a Mayavadi, but they cease from work. Yeah. And they make discrimination between matter and spirit. Yeah. But they remain aloof. They remain unengaged. They light no fire and perform no duty, as is said in Bhagavad Gita. But Krishna is encouraging Arjuna not to be a Gani. Because here he's showing them the defect. Yeah, Ganis may be externally detached, but internally, because they haven't rooted out the desire for sense gratification, at any point in time, they may fall down. That's why the example is given in this verse of, Prabhupada gives these examples. So I think we're familiar with these examples, isn't it? Krishnamrita was misled by Menika. And I think he just heard her ankle bells to begin with. Chink, chink, chink. As far as I noticed, I mean, I can't remember the details of the story, but he was attracted to the sound, and then the form, etc., etc. And then there's another example that we often hear about. Was it mentioned here? No, it's not mentioned here. Can anyone know another example of a yogi who was a Gani?
That the yogi who saw the who saw the mating.
That's Subari Muni, as Chandravali said. Yeah, that's Subari Muni. And he had made an offense to Garuda. So therefore, he was overcome. Yeah. So there's another example that's given. And
I was thinking of Ajamil.
Ajamil?
He was not a yogi, but he also slipped down seeing a prostitute embracing another
Yeah, I
man.
mean, yes, you could give that example. He was a very pucker Brahmin.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, at least at that stage in his life, he wasn't a 100% pure devotee, Vaishnava. He was very elevated in the mode of goodness, etc. But eventually, yeah, good point. He fell down. Now there's a contrast example given of a great devotee who surpassed the test.
Haridas Thakur.
Yeah, Haridas Thakur. That's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because so devotees, when we speak about devotees, generally we're speaking about devotees who are at the stage of perfection. Yeah, that's so those devotees, you could say, or those devotees do not fall down. But before that stage, there is always a danger. Yeah, but if we reach the stage of steadiness, and we reach a state of steadiness in our devotion, then there's less chance. But here, anyway, we should be we should be on guard, so to speak, to one degree or another. The senses are so strong. Yeah. So even a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So that's someone who is on the path of yoga, and they're making a conscious effort to control the senses. Even the senses, I think there's more verses coming up. Actually, I'm just paraphrasing the verses that are coming up. So I'll keep quiet at this point because it gives some nice examples that are coming up. Anyway, any other comments on this or questions? All right. So the senses are so strong and impetuous. Anyone know what impetuous means? Let me see if I can get a dictionary definition. Impetuous. Let's just have a look in the dictionary. Sometimes he's impetus. That's wrong.
The force of energy
Go on.
with which a body moves. It's the booster coil before the flywheel loses all its impetus. Sometimes that makes the process or activity happen more quickly. The ending of the Cold War give new impetus to
Right. So impetus, it's like all of a sudden one gets thrown or one gets dragged away. All of a sudden.
I think Prabhu translated impetus. Impetuous is something else. It's acting or done quickly with little or inadequate force, or having or marked by violent force.
Yeah,
rushing
that's
with
correct.
force or violence.
Yeah. Can you just say that again, Mother Gaia, for us?
Sorry, I was muted again. So acting or done quickly with little or inadequate thought. So, or rushing with force and violence, moving with impetus, furious, forcible, violent.
Yeah, so that's the correct dictionary definition of that, and it gives us
Does it mean like doing something without thinking, doing it like quickly?
Yeah, that's it. Without pre-planning or
It's impulse, Prabhu. Impulse.
Impulsive. Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, acting in an impulsive way.
Yeah. So now the next verse is going to describe about someone who does control the senses. So let's read that. Who's the Mother Chandravali? You have your hand there.
Did I?
Can read 61.
Okay.
Let me just turn the light on here.
I can't put my hand up. I don't know how.
You just raise it above your head.
I don't know, Prabhu. I can't find this.
At the
Your
bottom.
head's on top of your shoulders. You just raise. No, if you let me just if you reactions, you see the reactions.
Thank you, Prabhu.
No, that's the thumb up. Anyway, reactions in it.
Please put a hand up. She has.
Okay,
Okay.
no, Chandra, you can go ahead.
Okay,
Oh,
let's
it's
go.
4 hands up. Okay,
Tani sarvani samyamya.
you've got a secret.
Para. Yes. Vasihi yash indriyani tasya pragna pratistita. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Purport. That the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambrish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustice and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualification, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4, 18 to 20.
You might just read the translation if you like.
Yes, we'll be here all night otherwise. King Ambrish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hand in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastime of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostril in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisance unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all of these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. The word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambrish. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushana, a great scholar and Acharya in the line of the Matpara, remarks, okay, Mad Bhakti Prabhavena Sarva Indriya Vijaya Purvaka Swatma Drishti Sulabhiti Bhava. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of a yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something which is not on the Vishnu platform simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga.
Okay. So any curiosities or questions here about this verse? We know the story, isn't it? This is from the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think. The story of Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. A very exciting story. Make a great feature film, that's for sure. We won't, I mean, all of you are aware of the story, so we won't give the details of it. I mean, we know it. Maharaj Ambarish, just in brief, he was a great devotee of Specifically, he would worship, his worshipful deity was the Sudarshan. It's a form of Krishna, Sudarshan. And he was so absorbed in his bhajan, in his devotional service, that the Sudarshan chakra would, because he was an emperor, so the Sudarshan chakra would protect him from attack from the enemy. And in that way, he could just peacefully continue with his bhajan and his absorption in Krishna consciousness. So naturally, when the fiery demon went to attack Ambarish Maharaj, then the Sudarshan just set on the Rasa Muni. That's the basics of the story. Now here, there's an interesting word that Prabhupada is kind of highlighting here. It's matpada. So the translation to that is in relationship with me. So it's mentioned that this particular, so in relationship with me, now Krishna is speaking specifically about bhakti. Whenever that type of term is used, anything related or whenever it's mentioned about Krishna, then that's bhakti, like it's described here. So Krishna is directly referring to himself. So this is the first time this is mentioned. So the first time he's mentioned himself as being the object of devotion. Yeah. So this is stressing bhakti.
Can I ask something, Murli Prabhu, please?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So let's say if you are not in the parampara, but you are doing, you are offering devotional service, is that gonna have the same effect like when you would be in the parampara? Not really, isn't it?
If I can understand your question correctly, I mean, yeah, I mean, devotees, do you mean devotees who have taken like Diksha initiation and are therefore officially part of the parampara, and those that are not? Is that what you mean?
Person, just a normal person. He starts and he said, look, I have so many, let's say he find Bhagavad Gita, he's reading, and he said, look, devotional service it's gonna help me to liberate me from all these desires which I have, like all these lusty desires. And he starts to offer devotional service to Krishna. The effect is the same, like if he would be initiated and will be in the parampara and not doing it only by himself.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
good.
Krishna is situated within everyone's heart. And although the path of bhakti, as Krishna has described, that path, tasmat gurum prapadyeta, and tadvidi panipatena from Bhagavad Gita, that it does require that one takes shelter of a devotee of Krishna. So that's taking shelter specifically means to take shelter in the form of initiation, so to speak. But before that stage, one may be devoted to Krishna. Yeah. Bhakti is not, in one sense, the process of initiation is a needed formality. But someone can take up bhakti and practice devotion and receive Krishna's blessings and guidance even before initiation. And I'm sure devotees in that regard may have their own stories, how they felt when they was first coming to Krishna consciousness, even though they may not have had so much association with devotees, but they felt specific reciprocation with what they later understood to be Krishna. So Krishna helping the jiva, once the jiva turns towards Krishna, even before they may have formally accepted initiation, when that soul turns towards God, turns towards the Lord, or turns towards Krishna, then that's devotion. But for the fruit of that devotion to fully manifest in the stages of bhakti up towards bhava and prema, then one needs guidance. But yeah, so in answer to your question, yes.
Yeah. Because you can chant, but you need also initiation and to take shelter. So it's fructifying everything, and I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the chanting should lead to eventually. It may take long time for others, maybe short time, but it may be in a next lifetime that one will go forward for initiation. There's many different circumstances and many different devotees in different situations, but the process does require taking shelter of one of Krishna's dear devotees, yeah. But still, even before that stage, one can feel Krishna's grace and mercy and get strength to control one's senses. But one gets more strength once one has taken initiation. One is more, one's connected with a devotee. So one gets more strength in order to follow the process. And anyone else on that? Was that okay? Everyone understood that? Thank you for that question, Mother Mongolpur.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
I remembered the story. I can't remember this Mataji's name. I think you did mention to us the Tamal Krishna Maharaj disciple who came in United States temple first and spoke to the deity and said, I don't want to live, I have to die. And, she had some health issues. And so deity said, no, you can't die. And that is how she became, and she served very well Maharaj, and she's a nurse.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't tell that story. You must have heard it from somewhere else.
Okay, you didn't.
Someone
Okay.
else.
Oh, sorry, Prabhu.
No, anyway, nice story. So
yeah, so I was thinking about that Mataji, like Lord reciprocated, just because she had faith. She came and she said, I want.
Yeah. We shouldn't. In other words, we shouldn't underestimate Krishna's love and affection for all his jivas. So even someone may not be following the path of devotional service, but in their life, when they meet difficulties, they pray. They sincerely pray to whatever concept or understanding they have of God, even if it's not clear. They pray in times of difficulty. And also Krishna from within the heart, when the jiva is in difficulty, really intense difficulty and trials, then the Lord from within the heart furnishes those pious souls, at least, gives them the particular frame of mind in order to go through many difficult situations. So Krishna is there for everyone. I say God is there for everyone. So if they turn towards him, then they will get some internal and even perhaps external impetus of how to get through difficulties. It's going off on a slight different subject, but just trying to highlight Krishna's kindness for his jivas, especially those who take to a life of devotion to him. What to speak of those who actually kind of officially or particularly practice being devotees. What to speak of them? Krishna's got them fully covered. They're under the control of the internal potency. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Is this Mother Shauda? Sounds like.
Yes,
Hare Krishna.
I understand Krishna puts the devotee into a difficult situation so that they can take more shelter of him. And devotees consider the difficulties as a mercy of the Lord.
Yeah,
and I remember the verse Tatate Anukampana Bunjita Eva Dvaputra.
Yeah. Are you just bringing out that verse? Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't remember next line, but yeah.
yeah,
But in that purport, chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that verse.
yeah. This is a prayer from Lord Brahma, actually.
Yeah.
Tatina kumpum shushiksha atmano bhujana.
Vunjita evatma.
The second verse is the second line. Tatina kumpum. Punjana eva atma kripam vipapam vitvak popipi vidadan namaste jiviti yuk mukti pade sayabak. Yes, it's a very important verse. It's yes, it's a Lord Brahma speaking that even if a devotee is put into difficulty, the devotee thinks actually the Lord is very kind.
Yeah.
He should have put me into more difficulty.
Yes.
And they still continue to worship Krishna.
True.
He still continues to worship Krishna. This is a devotee. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing that verse out. Tatenu kompum shashikshamano. Yes. Anything else on this? Oh, yes. And now the next verse is going to now go the other direction. Okay, we've heard about the senses. Look out, they're very strong and impetuous. All of a sudden, they can have their own plans and scuttle our plans. So even if someone is trying to control them, but one who is a matpada, one who acts in relationship to Krishna and fix their mind on him, they're actually known as a, what's the Sanskrit steady? Pragyan Pratishtataha. They are fixed. Those who take shelter of Krishna, they are fixed. Now, the next set of verses describes the path of falling down, so to speak, how it all begins. All right. So I saw a hand up there. Mother Gaia, you'd like to read text 62 for us?
I can. Can you hear me well? Oh, somebody has a
Yes,
question.
very good.
No, I was just going to say the sentence.
Please, yeah.
Really, I really like. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. So
Yeah, where's that you're reading from?
that's where it's in the purport.
Of 61?
Yeah, Matpara.
Okay, yeah.
And you know that sentence, yeah. The more our senses are performing devotional services, the more we'd give up. You know?
Yeah. And that's why Prabhupada here very aptly quotes these verses of Maharaj Ambarish, because every one of his senses was engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. That's the key. You can't just keep the senses unengaged. We just engage them instead in Krishna's service. Yeah.
All the time, and you know, you can kind of do it, you know, like performing devotional service.
Yeah. We should learn to dovetail, you know, we learn to, what's it Prabhupada says, to mold our life in such a way that we can always think of Krishna. So that means it may take some time to mold, but we try best to mold it into mold our life, mold our frame of thinking, mold our desires, mold our plans with Krishna. Yeah. All right, let's read some other guy. You can read text 62.
262. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodo bijayate. We're not reading synonyms, are we?
No.
No, you can just a translation.
Translation. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Purport. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridasa Thakura was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just reminded us, we didn't comment on it, but Prabhupada quoted a verse which he often quotes, and that's Yad Avadimama Krishna Cheta Pada Vinde, that verse by Yamanuja Acharya. So rasa rasa, so since he's experiencing the ever increasing pleasure of Krishna consciousness, rasa rasa, then whenever he's haunted by or thinks about his previous sensual engagements, then he can easily, well, he shuns it. Almost there's a sense of adversity there. It's this guy that was spit before. But here, this is the path downwards, just by contemplation, just by thinking of, then one becomes attached. It's just like if you're thinking of someone or something, you know, day in, day out, and then you decide to stop thinking about it the next day, good luck. You know, if you've been meditating on pink elephants for a week, and then, okay, tomorrow I'm not going to think about pink elephants. Good luck. You know, so what to do? In one sense, say if you like a young man or whatever it may be, one's surrounded by the sense objects, you know, one learns to see the world through Krishna conscious eyes, you know. One sees the things of this world as belonging to Krishna, and it's not for my enjoyment. Yeah, just like then two persons see a beautiful rose, you know. So one person is a devotee, the one person is a non-devotee. So the non-devotee will pick the rose and smell it. Yeah, but the devotee will see the rose, see its beauty, but offer it to Krishna. This is a beautiful rose. It's so beautiful. Let me offer it to Krishna. Yeah. So someone may, you know, we may see things which we may, according to a particular makeup of the modes of material nature, we may see something or someone, whatever it may be, gold or the member of the opposite sex as being attractive. Yeah. But we do not, but then we remember and then we contemplate that actually this is all Krishna's. It's not for me to enjoy. But anyway, this is how the process happens. One doesn't, without Krishna consciousness, then while contemplating the objects of the senses, then there's attachment. I think the word is probably a Shakti. Let's read that. What's the word for Shakti here? That Shanga, attachment, anyway. And then from such attachment, lust develops. What does that mean exactly?
When you get attached,
want to
you can't live
enjoy.
without it. Yeah, you want to enjoy it. You want to
Yeah,
touch it.
yeah. Then you know you become attached, and that's it. You have to have it.
Desire.
Like
Yeah,
robbers. We are like a robber.
we are like a robber.
Like a robber, this came to my mind. Because when you rob, when you try to rob, you want to enjoy yourself. That's why you're stealing. You steal it away, and instead of realizing that it's not yours, it's Krishna's.
Yeah, so everything in this world belongs to Krishna. So unless we offer it to Krishna, we're no better than thieves. Yeah, so lust is actually the where things are happening now. You become attached, and that's it. Now you're going to do something. So then lust, and then from lust, anger arises. Why does anger arise from lust?
When you can't enjoy, when you lose it.
Yeah.
Lust is fulfilled. If
Right?
your lust is not
Frustrated.
fulfilled,
Yeah.
Your desire is not fulfilled.
Yeah, you can never, you can, in other words, you can be fulfilling the desires of your senses for hundreds and hundreds of years, but they'll still be asking for more. And it won't be enough. So, yeah, so then anger arises. Yeah.
But then the best deal it is, the more devotional service you do, the more satisfied you will become, and you will want even more devotional service. So then you cannot think anymore about all this lust and not lust and all this big problem.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. I think Srila Prabhupada in one place gives the example of just like a cup, and you have a cup of water and you fill it up with another drink or something, and then you, I forget the exact example, but then you displace the water with the other juice. The example is not quite right, but something like that. You become full in the Krishna consciousness. Yeah, and I think, and then you become lusty after, well, not lusty is perhaps not the right word, but you become greedy for Krishna, and you're always making plans how to serve Krishna better, how to cook this for Krishna, how to make this garland for Krishna, how to dress Krishna like this, how to distribute more books for Krishna, and you're full of Krishna conscious thoughts of how to increase your service. But yeah, that may come a little bit later. But in the beginning, we have to follow the process of Krishna consciousness and keep our senses under control and engage them in Krishna's service. But
Is that the video, Prabhu, you're saying? I see there's a video on WhatsApp going on. It's a colored liquid. Keep pouring water, so all the colors go out. Ego, lust, everything goes out. Then the
All right.
water becomes pure. Is it the video?
I haven't seen that, but you can send a link to me if you want, if you manage to find
Yeah,
it.
I would send it in the Mother Chandravali's Menti group. You're there, no Prabhu? I will send it.
Yeah, she can send it.
That video. I think I have it somewhere.
Yeah. So the example here is given, the one is given here of Lord Shiva. You know, he was agitated by Parvati. But then, as we mentioned before, the example of Haridas Thakur. There's two examples there where the prostitute came to him. But then the other one is Maya Devi herself. So the personification of all attraction in the material world tried to tempt Haridas Thakur. But because he was chanting Hare Krishna and absorbed in Krishna, he easily passed the test, as Prabhupada describes. Yes. All right. Let's read the next. Any other points on this?
Even Hiranyakashipu's birth is also due to this agitation, isn't it?
I don't know the story. Go on.
Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu was also born at the wrong time because
Oh yeah, yeah.
Aditi.
Yeah, who's the, again? Who was it?
Aditi.
Aditi.
And oh my God.
Kashyapa. Yeah. Yeah, that's an example. I think Prabhupada there writes in the purports about that as well. Yeah. Look, he was a great yogi. Of course, he's that situation was ultimately facilitating a wonderful Leela of the Lord. But yeah, still the examples there. Yeah. All right, perhaps Nitai Mata, you can read text 63. And the next stage is described where what happens after anger. overcomes it. Yeah.
Krodhat bhavate samoha, samohat smriti vibharama, smriti param sad buddhinaso, buddhinasat pranasyati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Srila Rupa Goswami, purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction.
Can just read the translation.
Okay.
As-
By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord, or the Absolute being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So, after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam to Krishna consciousness. Oh, sorry, my battery going down. I don't know. Whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though raising up to the point
of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. Hare Krishna. I think Nitai Mata's battery just ran out. Hare Krishna. So we've just been discussing this to some degree. This point here of this is known as Yukta Vairagya. This is the second part of that verse. Yeah. The first part, you've heard the term Yukta Vairagya, which means engaging the things of this world in Krishna's service. And that's a superior platform of renunciation. Rather than giving everything up, instead engaging it in Krishna's service. Yeah. And this term here also, the so-called renunciation, in other words, the rejection of everything in this world without knowing of its connection to Krishna. So-called renunciation is called falgu. So there in the Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, Shivaram Swami Maharaj mentions this falgu. There's a falgu river, and it looks at, for all intents and purposes, it's actually just looks like sand. So you cannot see it because there's sand on the surface and it's in a dry place. But if you put your hand in the sand, then you're going to see, or in the river itself, underneath the sand, there's all fish and there's all aquatic life. So that example is given of someone who's so-called renounced, but within their heart is swimming lots of different material or unfulfilled desires are still swimming around in their heart. So that's called falgu renunciation, so-called renunciation. Yeah. And then Prabhupada says, the devotee knows how to use everything in Krishna's service. And these points we've been discussing actually, Prashadam, engaging things in Krishna's service. Any questions or comments on this? Just reading commentary here. The mind must be fixed on something. If we don't fix it on Krishna, then we get the alternative result herein described. Yeah. And then the next verse is beginning with 64, continuing to the end of the chapter. Krishna is going to answer Arjuna's last question. Yeah. How does a transcendentalist live? How does he act in this world? Yeah. But anyway, so these verses are nice to learn. These verses, these set of verses here. While contemplating the object of the senses, the person develops attachment for them. From attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. From anger, complete delusion arises. Has anyone ever spoke to someone, or has anyone ever got angry before or been on the receiving end of anger?
No.
No.
No. Doesn't happen to us. We
Complete
perfect.
delusion. You forget, you know. Sometimes, remember Govinda Maharaj was quoting, and sometimes we see that sometimes, unfortunately, it may be, unfortunately, well, the word, but basically a lot of in America, I was reading one time that a lot of the homicides take place within families, unfortunately, where, for instance, the husband becomes really angry with the wife, or something, or the vice versa, and become completely deluded. Often it's seen like that. Murders that take place, then generally the first suspect is the person who first reports the crime. in other words, the family member. So yeah, so it is horrifying what can happen when someone is angry. They become completely deluded, and they can actually kill someone they know and otherwise have affection for. Yeah, well, that's extreme examples I'm giving here. So one forgets oneself completely. Then one is deluded. Yeah. And then everything's mixed up. And from that bewilderment, one has no intelligence. Their intelligence is lost. Yeah, this case where anyway, I don't want to go into graphic detail, but there's one case where one young man had shot his mother, his father, and his two brothers at night in their bed in cold-blooded murder, And so in other words, he's completely gone. His intelligence was lost completely. Anyway, let's not go down there any further. These graphic examples of the material world. But this is what happens. This is what can happen. Yeah. So, okay. Any other questions or comments on this?
I was thinking about this only like a while back, that when a person going through emotions like that, they perform actions, and then they're going to get reactions for it. And then later on, when they realize they've done wrong or whatever, I mean, I was just thinking about it, that these things can happen,
Yeah, these things can happen.
Yeah, like to normal, ordinary people, like more. I mean,
yeah.
We don't do things like that, but I'm just saying.
And that's what that's interesting, because that's what the judge is looking for, or the jury is looking for, if there's some type of regret. Sometimes, and then their sentence is less. But if they refuse, but if there's no remorse there, no remittance and no remorse at all, then their sentence is more severe.
Yeah, because I was thinking about, wasn't it Yudhishthira, the question was asked that if somebody commits an offense and there's like a Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya, the what they get is according to what ashram they're coming from.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I
yeah,
heard it somewhere.
yeah. In other words,
If
for
you're a Brahman and if you got the knowledge, then if you behave like that, then you're going to get a bit severe punishment.
yeah, for Brahmana, there's a higher standard which they're expected to live by. So that's why, for instance, if a Brahmana drinks alcohol, there will be a severe reaction compared to a non-Brahmana, a Sudra, for example, there will still be reaction, but it'll be a lot less for someone who is, yeah. So yeah, so when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pole. All right. So
Prabhu, sorry,
yes,
Prabhu, I'm just asking this question. In Kali Yuga, all are Shudras. So these all the people who are doing murdering, murder, all that, they will have very less reactions because all are Shudras. They don't know.
well, Sudra, a actual definition of a Sudra is that they are religious and they're very honest, you know. So persons, so that doesn't, you know, that's not going to, because okay, everyone's Sudras, but still they're going to be subject to being killed themselves in the next life, unless they happen to be blessed with capital punishment. Yeah, that doesn't nullify their. Yeah, that's not going to nullify the reaction because they happen to be born Sudras. But by the way, a Sudra actually is quite, compared to today's people in general, a Sudra in the classic term is religious and very honest, etc. But yeah, no, they're gonna get.
Yeah, but in the more punishment they get, it's their benefit, isn't it, Prabhu?
You could say, yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be karma is supposed to be a teacher. It's supposed to lead one to a more. It's supposed to inspire one and lead one to a more pious life. Yeah. Okay. So it's 7 o'clock. So perhaps, you know, yeah, 7 o'clock. So let's stop there then and pick it up tomorrow. We have another Bhagavad Gita reading tomorrow. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then 64. Then we might finish the chapter. We might not. But let's pick it up tomorrow at text 64. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us again. First class in Bhagavad Gita in 2023. So please join us if you can tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Holy Prabhu.
Thank you,
Praise Holy Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Yeah.
Quite
Praise
well
Lord
devoted
Prabhu.
here. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Oh.